I'm John Strum, and this is Real Talk MS. It's November 12th, and we have a lot to talk about. And on this podcast, we tend to talk a lot about new technologies, emerging treatments, the most recently approved disease-modifying therapies, even the disease-modifying therapies that will soon be approved. And in the midst of all that research and science, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that expressive therapies like dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy have all been shown to help promote self-efficacy, emotional well-being, and motor control in people living with MS. Dr. Francois Bethoux joins me today to discuss the benefits of integrating dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy into your treatment plan to help manage your MS symptoms and enhance your well-being. Dr. Bethoux is the chairman of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at the Cleveland Clinic Neurological Institute and the medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Arts and Medicine Program. But before we get to my conversation with Dr. Bethoux, there are a few other things that you should know about. November is National Family Caregivers Month in the United States, and I came across an easy-to-use piece of tech that can not only make life easier for MS caregivers, but it can make life better for their care recipients as well. It's called OnScreen, and recently I had an opportunity to talk with the CEO of OnScreen, Costin Tuculescu. And as you're about to hear, the longer we talked, the more ways I saw for OnScreen to improve the quality of life at home for MS caregivers and the spouses, partners, parents, and children that they care for. In a moment, you'll hear my conversation with the CEO of OnScreen, Costin Tuculescu. You won't find loneliness or social isolation on the list of invisible symptoms of MS. But those are very real, very serious conditions that exist among people living with MS and MS caregivers. The CDC reminds us that people experiencing loneliness and social isolation carry an increased risk for a whole series of negative outcomes, including depression, dementia, heart disease, and even stroke. Costin Tuculescu is the CEO of OnScreen, and he's joining me today to talk about how OnScreen can help combat loneliness and how it can be an especially useful tool if you're a long-distance caregiver. Welcome to the podcast, Costin.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So tell me, what is OnScreen and what motivated you and your team to create it?
Yeah, absolutely. So OnScreen is a TV-based senior care platform. We focus on supporting the 75, 80 plus population that struggles with smaller devices or technology in general. And while we focus on that, we also are extremely helpful to other conditions as well, where accessibility is very important. And in being a TV-based care platform, what we do is we turn the TV into a video communications platform, a telehealth platform. We can receive text messages to the TV, photos, family videos. And then we also go beyond that with bringing live classes and interactive classes to the TV through Zoom. And finally, we have an AI companion that appears on the TV that you can converse with. The AI companion, we call her Joy. She checks in, see if you have any pain today, if you've taken your medication, if there's anything you need, she will report that back to the caregiver. So we essentially turn the TV into a bridge for care with caregivers that are further away or family members that are further away, making it very easy to have that visual connection.
Can Joy be programmed or instructed to remind someone about those medications, for instance, at a certain time or an appointment on a certain day, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So using our mobile app, usually there's a family member or a caregiver that has the mobile app. Using the mobile app, you can set up any type, a number of routines. And some of those can be reminders, so you can get text reminders on the screen. And then others can be joy appearing on the screen and asking if you've taken your medication and how is it making you feel. So sometimes you just need a text to appear, hey, time to take your red pills. Please do that right now, and that'll stay on your TV for a minute. Other times you can have joy check in if you've taken the medication. It's really up to like how much engagement and how much interaction with the AI companion our customers want to have.
You know, I originally said that this would be ideal for long distance caregivers. I'm going to amend that statement a little bit. I think it would be ideal for even caregivers in the same household who aren't going to be in the house when it is time to take that pill, or when it is a convenient time to be reminded that, hey, tomorrow you're going to see your physical therapist, or later today, I'll be picking you up because we're going to see your neurologist, or whatever the case may be. So not just long distance caregiving, but I would say any caregiver can offload some of those kind of administrative responsibilities that really, they add up and they bog you down. They can offload that to this system, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's 100% right, John. And, obviously there's other reminder systems out there, smartphones, tablets, even Echo shows. But the difference with our product is that you really just can't miss the TV. The TV is the center of a living area. We know that folks like to spend a lot of time in front of their TV, and it's just the final frontier of screens that we can use to help us manage our lives. And like you said, you could set up reminders. So at 9 a.m., at 12 p.m., at 6 p.m., you're getting these things on a regular schedule. But also, if you're on your way home, or if you're driving somewhere, you could send messages that appear directly on the TV to remind and notify folks of things that they need to know.
And I know that there are certainly going to be some of my listeners who are thinking to themselves, well, I can send a text on my phone. And that's 100% true. But to me, it's never a matter of how convenient is it to send that. How easy is it for that person to receive it? And that's where it gets a little different. And I think very often having, as you said, you can't ignore that large screen that's usually keeping that person at home company a good part of the day. Even if they're not paying attention to it, it's probably on because it beats
exactly right.
Right. And so I think this again, it's not necessarily because we all know how to send a text on our phone. It's about how is that person going to receive that information, and how are they, where will they be paying attention to it? Very often they won't even be in the same room as their phone. And I know there's a whole generation who says that's impossible. Trust me, it's true. They may not even.
And
be
the
in
other
same
issue
room.
is sometimes you forget to charge your phone. Sometimes you misplace it. You just can't find it.
Right.
And to the point of, the sending of them, that's not the thing we're solving. It is the receiving and the seeing and acknowledging of the receipt of those messages. That's the piece that folks that struggle with smaller screens and, touch screens, for example, now they can use their TV for that. You said another thing I wanted to touch upon, how the TV keeps them company. And really, we've built Joy to not just remind you of your medication or remind you of something that you need, but Joy is meant to be fun and bring joy. So she can show up on your TV and have, tell you jokes, and you can have a really funny conversation with her live for minutes or, half an hour if you wanted to. So you can have a real conversation. She can play trivia with you for as long as you'd like. And it's always new questions, things to keep you stimulated. And we've built the latest thing we've built, which is really so phenomenal, taking advantage of the huge innovations in AI lately. You can also paint with Joy. So Joy will come up on the TV and say, hey, let's have a painting session together. You tell me what you would like to paint, and I'll create it for you. So she'll ask you, what's the subject? What's the background? What kind of colors? What kind of style? And then, magically, poof, you will see the artwork that you've created with Joy. And then we take that artwork and we share it with the rest of the family that's plugged into the on-screen circle. So it's a really fun way and great way to keep folks, entertained and engaged.
So you could have other family members sharing photos if they have the mobile app on their phone, for instance. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, that's different than the painting with joy.
Right.
That's just you can invite your brother, your sister, your teenage grandkids, and they can all send text messages to grandma. Hey, grandma, we love you. But also, hey, grandma, look at this A+ I got on my biology exam. I know you're, a chemist. I thought you'd be proud of me. And grandma would just receive those photos on her TV without having to do anything.
That's very, very cool. So how easy is OnScreen to install?
Yeah. So I'm showing it to you, John, just so you see it. But the device itself is kind of like a Roku with a built-in camera and microphones. And it just sits on top of the TV. Okay. And to install it, you literally have to hook up just two cables. An HDMI cable goes into your HDMI port on the TV, and then you just plug it into power, and then you're off to the races. If you have cable or other streaming services, that plugs directly into the OnScreen device as well, because we have an HDMI in, and then we make it super simple to switch back and forth between your cable provider, the OnScreen activities, and then back to the cable provider. Now, I'll tell you one more thing, though. The device comes with its own streaming service, a free streaming service called Pluto, which we believe is a phenomenal service for older adults. It comes with all these classic channels like the I Love Lucy channel, the Three's Company channel, the Love Boat channel. I often find myself just kind of like getting lost watching Three's Company as we work on the product. It takes about 15 minutes to set up. And once it's connected to the TV, everything else is done from the mobile app. A family member sets it up for the older adult, and then you can invite your whole family circle to stay engaged with that person. And, on the point of MS and your podcast here, because I am talking a lot about aging, but MS, obviously, there are challenges with mobility and accessibility. So I am really honored and privileged to be up here, because I do hope that this audience can benefit from this tool as well.
I spent about 23 years serving as a caregiver for my wife who lived with MS. And so when I heard about this service and about this device, I immediately thought this would be a benefit, not just to an older audience, but to an audience of people who are living with really any chronic condition that keeps you a little bit isolated, sometimes a lot isolated.
Yeah.
Loneliness, as I said in the beginning of this segment, it is one of the unmentioned invisible symptoms of multiple sclerosis. But it's a serious one that has serious consequences. And it's something that not only affects the patient, in this case, caregivers suffer the same way. And so it's something that can really kind of knock down the walls and bring the outside world back in for everyone. I think there's a lot of real use for this platform. So I'm glad we're talking today.
I just wanted to mention, just on the topic of loneliness, we have this partnership with a company called The Loop Village. And The Loop Village, they put on online classes via Zoom. They have about 5 or 6 different classes every single day. And you could do things like poetry and painting and meditation and stretching, all through Zoom. But you can imagine, it's one thing to be on your laptop doing that. It's a whole other thing to have your beautiful 60-inch TV in the middle of your living room, and you're able to see all the other folks in that classroom on the TV. And really, it just, for folks that are isolated and they don't get out of the house a whole lot, that just makes a world of difference.
I can absolutely see that. I get it. And so OnScreen, it sounds like there's 2 components to it, really. There's the device itself, and then the service that supplies all of the content. Is that a subscription service? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the device itself retails for about $100, and that's a one-time purchase. And then the service itself is $30 a month. So for $30 a month, you get the family video calling, you get the AI companionship, Zoom integration. These other services they do have their own additional cost for the classes and all of that. We have another partner called Discover Live, and they do international virtual travel. So every week they'll take you to Japan or Paris or London or just about anywhere in the world, and you can live explore these destinations with a tour guide. So it's very cool. So these are like add-ons, but the basic service is $29.99 a month.
Not to sound like somebody applying to be a salesman for you. So you're talking about $1 a day for this kind of access.
There you go. Yeah, exactly right.
Somebody must have thought of that number.
It's a good range to be in.
Absolutely. So where do people go? How can people find out more about OnScreen?
Yeah, please just come visit our website. We are OnScreen Inc. That's onscreeninc.com. You can go to our website, read about our product, watch some videos, and even order. We'll ship it out to you. You'll have it in 2 to 3 business days, and you can keep your loved one better connected, less isolated, less lonely, and make the most of your years together.
November is National Caregiver Month in the United States. I want to make sure that everybody listening who is either a caregiver or has a caregiver or knows a caregiver is sure to visit onscreeninc.com and at least get more information. We'll be sure to include that link in today's show notes. Costin Tuculescu, I want to thank you for creating a service that can improve the quality of life for people with MS who find it challenging to get out of the house while making life easier for their family, their caregivers as well. And thanks so much for talking with me today.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity.
Sitting on that cushy sofa or being enveloped in that comfy chair while you interact with that big screen on the wall sounds great some of the time, but not all of the time. We know that physical activity can be a big difference maker in managing MS. And that physical activity can take many forms, including dance or movement therapy. And for those times when you aren't inclined to move, other forms of therapeutic arts like music therapy or art therapy have been shown to be effective at enhancing your emotional well-being and your motor control. In a moment, my guest, Dr. Francois Bethoux, will join me to discuss how and why you might want to consider adding expressive therapies to your MS treatment plan. Research has shown that expressive therapies like dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy can help promote self-efficacy, emotional well-being, and motor control in people living with MS. My guest this week is Dr. Francois Bethoux, who's joining me to discuss the benefits of integrating dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy into your treatment plan to help manage your MS symptoms and enhance your well-being. Dr. Bethoux is the chairman of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at the Cleveland Clinic Neurological Institute and the medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Arts and Medicine Program. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Bethoux.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me and for allowing me to talk about one of my favorite topics.
Well, the Cleveland Clinic has a long-standing commitment to incorporating the arts into healthcare as a path to healing. What are the benefits of integrating arts and medicine?
So the benefits of integrating arts into medicine, actually, they've been described like as far back as ancient Greece. There was talk, about music being medicine and so on. But really, it's I think in the 20th century that this has taken form in terms of like training healthcare providers to use the arts for therapeutic purpose. That's really when it became therapeutic arts. And so, there are different ways to engage with the arts, right? We can just listen to music, paint, sculpt, etc. But we can also do it in a healthcare system where people generally have more distress, and may also be suffering a lot, from various symptoms, including pain. And then there's the intervention of these trained therapists who will use the arts to derive positive emotions, but also engage the body into doing an artistic activity. And the benefits are many. So, benefits on the emotional health, benefits on physical health, benefits on quality of life have been reported. All of that at the individual level, because we all interact with the arts in a very individual fashion.
I think you've already started to answer my next question, but I think we want to make a distinction. We're discussing using the arts for therapeutic purposes, which is different from recreational arts, like going to a local painting or dance class or listening to music at home. Can you explain what makes therapeutic art different?
When you experience the arts with a trained provider, with a trained therapist, then it's not just your personal interaction with the arts. The therapist will actually elicit a conversation, will try to find the best way to engage you with the arts, and then will try to maximize the benefits, identify a person's needs, a person's desires, a person's goals, and then help them achieve these goals. It can be sometimes a little intimidating to engage with the arts by ourselves, right? We feel like if it's just for enjoyment, sometimes we feel like we're not competent to enjoy the arts, or if it's engaging in creating something, then that we haven't been trained, we're not good at it. But with a therapist, everything is facilitated, and the intent is clearly therapeutic. So it's to enhance health.
You and your colleagues at the Cleveland Clinic developed a program called Health, Resilience, and Well-Being Through the Arts. It exposed patients with a variety of chronic illnesses to different types of artistic activities to promote general health and wellness. What did you learn through this program?
What I learned is that, with the help of our music therapists and art therapists, but also curators of visual art, that we can have people with various conditions gather into a group, share a very special moment, and get introduced to different forms of art, and then enjoy them right on the moment they are together. And that leads to substantial gains, particularly in terms of emotional health and quality of life, that we found time and again in all the studies that we've done with various populations that could include people with MS, people with a variety of chronic conditions, but also nurses and healthcare providers through the pandemic, for example.
Is this program still active? And if it is, how can people participate?
So this program is still active. We're still offering it. It's offered in kind of discrete episodes, right? It's at 8 sessions that are given at a weekly interval. And so it's being rolled out in different centers, mostly kind of on demand from the program, let's say, or from a group of providers. And so the best way to, know if it's available is to contact the Cleveland Clinic and, ask to be kind of put in touch with the Arts and Medicine program to learn where we are with that.
Exercise and physical activity are important for everyone's general health, and they're recommended for people living with MS at every level of ability. Dance is a form of physical exercise, and I'm wondering whether dance and movement therapy have different benefits than what we think of as traditional exercise, like walking or lifting weights.
I would see it as a modality that has a different approach. Again, it's with a therapist for the purpose of health promotion, and dance and movement therapists are fully trained to engage people in movement, no matter what their limitations are, and then kind of get them to express their emotions, their feelings, and create some movement that in a safe manner. And also adjust it to what they can do, and then their progression over time. Exercise is great, and we know that it's very important to be physically active and to exercise with MS because it helps alleviate some of the symptoms and helps also preserve overall someone's health condition or health status. But with dance and movement, it's really, again, using the artistic approach. So there's more expression, more feeling into it, a personalized approach again, that will, possibly promote more benefit. Maybe not necessarily as much physical benefit, because the movement may not be as intense as, say, lifting weights or being on a bike. I see them as complementary, right? It's a different level of engagement with physical activity.
You and your colleagues were involved in a dance and movement pilot study called Moving MS. The study focused on social emotional well-being, body awareness, and gross and fine motor function in people living with MS. What did the participants in this study do, and do you see the outcome informing future work in this area?
Certainly, this was a great moment. We were approached by a dance company in town, and they were interested in having an initiative towards people with MS. So they went to support groups, also asked us a lot of questions, and they really tried to better understand how MS affects people and how they could help with their training as dancers. And so then it resulted in these sessions where every participant in this research study was paired with a dancer and then engaged by the facilitator to perform movement, to express themselves, in a manner that was safe for them, of course, and then with a progression over time. And everybody who was in the program came back and finished the research study, which I think is a testament to their engagement there, and reported benefit, particularly in terms of their emotional health, particularly also about alleviating their fear of moving, because they were afraid that by moving they could, have balance issue. They may fall. They may, have maybe their MS symptoms would increase if they move too much. And they became more confident in their ability to move around, but also to express themselves through movement. So we are ready to move on to the next step. Unfortunately, we'll have to be with a different dance company, because the company we worked with closed their doors just a week ago, actually.
Oh, that's a shame. You mentioned the issue of balance when it comes to dance therapy. It's not uncommon for people with MS to have balance issues. So can dance therapy be modified to accommodate someone who has balance issues?
Definitely. Dancing can be modified, and with a therapist, with a trained therapist, the movement can be done seated at times, and it still is movement and can be called dance as well. There are other cases where actually it's more of a ballroom dancing format, where, of course, then there will be much caution to ensuring the person's safety and managing breaks to allow, the rest periods, and then to restart with a more physical engagement.
Studies have reported the positive effects of music therapy in people with chronic neurological conditions like MS. In fact, advances in neuroscience have led to an approach called neurologic music therapy. What is that?
Neurologic music therapy, in a way, is a subspecialty of music therapy. So it's a good segue for me to, again, attest that the music therapists, art therapists, and dance and movement therapists have followed advanced training specifically in their field, and they are, they have a diploma, they are certified, they are licensed, and so. With the music here, neurologic music therapy is a specialized training for music therapists to use the music to enhance neurological function. So one example is to use rhythmic music, also called rhythmic auditory stimulation, to enhance walking and the person's gait, a person's manner of walking. That's a common example of using neurologic music therapy for health promotion.
I want to make sure we cover all of the expressive arts here. Based on evidence from past studies, what are the benefits of art therapy for people who are living with MS?
So there have been several studies, using art therapies in people with MS. And, what was found, similar to other therapeutic arts, is, improved emotions, improved quality of life, sometimes improved also empowerment, right? Feeling empowered to actually, take something into their own hands, this art initiative. And also, some people have found that their ability to move was improved because engaging in an art producing activity or in a creative activity actually, created a drive, and then people realized that they could move a lot better than they thought, maybe make more fine movements with their hands, and achieve results that they were themselves surprised with, and that make them rethink the limitations and barriers that they may have in interacting with the arts.
So how can our listeners go about finding a therapeutic arts program that they might be able to participate in?
That proves to be somewhat difficult sometimes, but first, the therapeutic arts societies, the Dance and Movement Therapy Association, Music Therapy Association, and Art Therapy Association in the US, they usually keep a list of providers in different parts of the country that are actually certified. And so that could be a way to start and find a name and then find a way to get in touch with that person. Another way is to look for healthcare institutions in the area. A lot of therapists work in healthcare facilities, hospitals, clinics, and others. And so if there is a large hospital or hospital system, then maybe contact them and see if they have a therapeutic arts program. And also, I know that the National MS Society and other MS community organizations are actually also involved with some of these initiatives and could be a great source of information.
Well, Dr. Francois Bethoux, I want to thank you for all you do to improve the quality of life for people living with MS. And thanks so much for talking with me today.
Well, I had a great time. Thank you for the invitation.
That's going to wrap up this episode of Real Talk MS. Real Talk MS is powered by the National MS Society. And you can share this episode of the podcast by letting your friends or family members know that all they have to do is point their web browser at realtalkms.com/376. You'll find that link in today's show notes, so you can easily copy and paste it right into an email or a text. And if you have a minute, I hope you'll visit the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and download the free Real Talk MS app for your iOS or Android smartphone or tablet. It's the best way for us to stay connected. The app will automatically download the latest episode of Real Talk MS. You'll be able to access any of our past episodes. You'll be able to save your favorite episodes. And it's a great way for me to share bonus content with you. The app is free, so I hope you'll download it today. I'm John Strum. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and make healthy choices.